open minutes from May the 28th, 2024. Motion please, Councillor Fonterica, Councillor King, all in favor. Thank you. And the next item on our list is a public hearing for the official community plan amendment bylaw. And I will read the statement of the chair first. This public hearing is convened pursuant to section 464 of the Local Government Act, RSBC 2015, to allow the public to make representation to council respecting matters contained in the official community plan amendment bylaw number 1375.04, 2024. Every person present who believes that their interest in property is affected by the proposed bylaw shall be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard respecting matters contained in the proposed bylaw. None of you will be discouraged or prevented from making your views known. However, it is important that you restrict your remarks to matters contained in the proposed bylaw. If you wish to speak once, it is time for public representation and are attending in person, please proceed to the microphone and commence your remarks by clearly stating your name and address. If you wish to speak and are attending virtually, please virtually raise your hand. If you are unsure how to do so, you may find the information on the town's website. It will be your turn to speak once your name and phone number has been called. Your microphone will be unmuted and you may commence your remarks by clearly stating your name and address. Once you have finished speaking, your microphone will be muted. If they wish, members of council may ask you questions following your presentation. However, the function of council at this public hearing is to listen to you rather than to debate the merits of the proposed bylaw. In accordance with the council procedure bylaw, presentations by members of the public shall be limited to a maximum of 5 minutes each. If a person has additional information that they are unable to provide within that time frame, they shall be given further opportunity to address council after all other interested members of the public have been heard a first time. Please refrain from applause or other expressions of emotion during this public hearing so that we may ensure as impartial a hearing as possible. After this public hearing is adjourned, council members will not speak to the public on this matter until after the matter has been dealt with at a public meeting. After this public hearing has concluded, council may, without further notice, give whatever effect council believes proper to the representations made at this hearing. We'll ask Mrs. Robinson to confirm the notice requirements, please.
Thank you, Mayor. So notice of this public hearing was given in accordance with the Local Government Act and the Community Charter by distributing the notice as follows. Publishing in 2 consecutive editions of the Times Chronicle on May 30th and June 6th, 2024. Placing the notice on the bulletin board in the town office on May 29th, 2024. Posting the notice on the town's website on May 29th, 2024, and distributed via e-news on May 31st, 2024. Notices were mailed out on May 29th, 2024. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will ask planner Ms. Wong, please, to read the summary of staff report. Oh, go ahead, Chris. Thank you.
Sure. So for the summary of the staff report, I'll just reiterate that the purpose of the public hearing is to provide an opportunity for persons who believe that their interests are affected by the Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw 1375.04 2024 to be heard from the board to present written submissions respecting the proposed amendment bylaw. The purpose of the proposed Official Community Plan Amendment or amendments is to ensure compliance with rules and amendments to the Local Government Act regarding the provision of small-scale multi-unit housing. This is also known as Bill 44, the Housing Statutes Residential Development Amendment Act 2023. And just for everybody's benefit, first reading of the amendment bylaw did happen on May 14th. Now I'm just going to transition to my PowerPoint slides here.
Okay.
Now I'll just start with some quick background context that has prompted the review and the proposed amendments to the Official Community Plan. So they just indicated in the prepared statement. This is related to the potential legislative changes from November of last year Those changes to the Local Government Act introduced a number of new requirements for local governments. The one we're dealing with today is the required increase to residential densities in low density residential zones and county facilities. Bill 44 introduced the concept of the restricted zone into the act. A restricted zone is one in which local government is only allowed to follow single family dwelling, duplex, secondary suite, or accessory dwelling. Now, there are a number of zones within the town that are now deemed to be restricted zones under the legislation, and the legislation is mandating that the town either allow 2 dwelling units per parcel or 3 to 4 dwelling units per parcel, and that's based on regional growth strategy designation of the urban containment area, and also the presence of municipal sewer and water services. So because Osoyoos is an RGS growth area and water and sewer extends to most of the municipality, council have to consider allowing 3 to 4 dwelling units based on parcels in the town. The act also introduced legislative requirements for the town to consider direction provided by the minister in relation to the small scale multi-unit housing implementation. That was released on December 7th, 2023. It spoke to building envelopes that should be considered, as well as how the town deals with development permit area designations. So I'm just going to skip forward now to the OCP amendments themselves. So of course, the changes today are to the OCP. As council is aware from committee earlier today, the zoning bylaw changes are coming later this summer. But before you today are the changes to the residential policies, which is section 7.b of the OCP bylaw. To make sure that we're consistent with that local government act requirement, we are proposing changes to the low density residential designation to support a maximum density of 4 units per parcel, obviously subject to servicing. From that, also proposing changes to the medium density residential designation to support townhouses and apartment buildings up to 75 units per hectare. And as council is aware, there's a separate comprehensive development land use designation policy within the OCP. We're proposing to consolidate that into other designations. With regard to development permit area designations, these have been reviewed and proposed revisions brought forward for consideration by council previously. This includes repealing the Southeast Meadowlark and Hillside development permit area designations and revising the guidelines of mapping for the riparian, environmentally sensitive industrial, multifamily, mixed use, and commercial DP area designations. Just a couple of examples of the changes to the maps that I referenced in the previous slide. So in relation to growth management or growth containment area map, being map 1 of the OCP, there was a couple of parcels that were deemed to have been missed during the OCP review. So Southeast Meadowlark is one of them, as well as the CD zone at the southeast corner there you can see. So we're proposing to amend the growth containment area to include those parcels. And then also, I appreciate this is a busy slide and hard to see the text, but it's drawn from the amendment bylaw and shows the proposed land use designation map for the town, which now includes the new land use designations for the low density residential and medium density residential. And I think this is my last slide. Again, just showing you a quick overview of the proposed changes to the multifamily residential development permit area, and this DP area designation is now being proposed to apply to the medium density residential zone parcels within the town. And that's it for my presentation.
Thank you very much, Thank you very much, Mr. Garish. So from what I know, there has been no correspondence that has been received on this issue.
That is correct.
Thank you very much. So I will ask if, I don't suppose there's an applicant for this, is there? No. So is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on this, official community plan amendment bylaw? I will ask for a second time. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak to this application? And a third time, I will ask if there's anyone who wishes to speak to this application. Hearing none, then I will need a motion, please, that the public hearing for official community plan bylaw 1375.04 be adjourned. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I guess on your presentation on schedule 30, it talks about a fine if you start development before the process, and it stated 2022. So does that get changed, or is that just kind of stay?
Mr. Garish. Go ahead, Mr. Garish.
Going by memory, So I believe that you're referring to the changes to the MTI bylaw, this particular information bylaw. And I believe that's related to the subsequent changes that we're also proposing to the development permit area designation in order to give council the ability to issue tickets in relation to DPs, which it hasn't previously had the authority to. So part of the amendments is to change the development permit area designation to set out offenses. And then also amend municipal ticketing commission bylaw to then establish fines related to those offenses should somebody be ticketed.
Okay, I understand that. Just, this is, I guess, an old one that says 2022 on your presentation on page 25. I'm just curious if that should be updated or it's just a typo.
I'm at a loss if we don't have the reference.
I'm not sure either, because the presentation for this,
On top of the attachment to the minutes I brought out is page 27 and 27.
You've got page 25 of 107, the following year.
It says schedule 30. I'm looking at the wrong one.
Schedule 30 to page 48.
I might be having it. Oh,
I
might be the next presentation.
Yeah, so your municipal ticketing bylaw has a very short front end to it, but attached to that are dozens of schedules. So the proposed schedule for the official community plan would be scheduled 30 to the MTI bylaw, and it sets out the lines and go with those offenses.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion, please, to adjourn the official or the public hearing. Councillor King with you and Councillor Poderica seconding, all in favor. Thank you. So the public hearing ended at 2:15, is that it? 2:12, and no new information can be received by council on this matter. So we will now move to the second public hearing, and I will read the statement of the chair. This public hearing is convened pursuant to section 464 of the Local Government Act, RSBC 2015, to allow the public to make representation to council respecting matters contained in the official community plan amendment bylaw 1375.03 2024 and the zoning amendment bylaw number 1085.150 2024. Every person present who believes that their interest in property is affected by the proposed bylaw shall be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard respecting matters contained in the proposed bylaw. None of you will be discouraged or prevented from making your views known. However, it is important that you restrict your remarks to matters contained in the proposed bylaw. If you wish to speak once it is time for public representation, you are attending in person, please proceed to the microphone and commence your remarks by clearly stating your name and address. If you wish to speak and you're attending virtually, please raise your hand. Be your turn to speak once your name or phone number has been called. I'm gonna paraphrase some of this, skip it over because it's pretty well the same as the last one. If they wish, members of council may ask questions following your presentation. In accordance with the council procedure bylaw, presentations by members of the public should be limited to 5 minutes each. Please refrain from applause. After this public hearing is adjourned, council members will not speak to the public on this matter until the matter has been dealt with at a public meeting. After this public hearing has concluded, council may, without further notice, give whatever effect council believes proper to the representations made at this hearing. So I will ask Mrs. Hilson, please, to read the confirmation of posting.
Thank you, Mayor. Notice of this public hearing was given in accordance with the Local Government Act and the Community Charter by distributing the notice as follows. Publishing in 2 consecutive editions of the Times Chronicle on May 30th and June 6th, 2024. Placing the notice on the bulletin board in the town office on May 29th, 2024. Posting the notice on the town's website on May 29th and distributed via e-news on May 31st, 2024. Notices were mailed out on May 29th, 2024. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, is it Planner Duong? Ms. Duong, you're going to do this one? Okay, would you go ahead with this summary of the staff report? Thank you.
So the purpose of this public hearing is to provide an opportunity for persons who believe that their interests are affected by official community plan amendment bylaw number 1375.03/2024 and zoning amendment bylaw number 1085.150/2024 to be heard or to present written submissions respecting the proposed amendment bylaws. These amendment bylaws received first and second readings at the regular open council meeting of May 14th, 2024. And the purpose of the proposed amendments is to allow for the construction of a two-family dwelling, being a duplex on the property at 5801 Oleander Drive. And I do have a presentation.
Good, thank you. Please go ahead.
So as mentioned, the subject property is located at 5801 Oleander Drive. The current official community plan designation which applies to the property is medium to high density residential with the zoning of medium density residential, and that is the R6 zone. The parcel is approximately 831 square meters in size, and it is located within the growth containment area that is shown within the official community plan bylaw. The property currently does contain a single family dwelling as well as an accessory dwelling being a detached garage, which I understand would be removed from the property following the proposed construction of the two family dwelling. And here are just a couple of a site plan as well as some elevations which indicate the proposed development. As previously discussed at the May 14th council meeting, the medium to high density residential official community plan designation is typically applied to lands which we have identified for future expanded residential development, and this includes developments in the form of plexes as well as multiple family dwellings such as townhouses and apartments. The medium density residential zoning does permit multiple family dwelling as a use, which stipulates a minimum of 3 dwelling units. The zoning also provides formal allowances for pre-existing single family and two family dwellings, but does not currently permit the construction of new two family dwellings. And with that in mind, the proposed amendments in order to facilitate the development of a duplex on site. The first of which would be to amend the official community plan designation of the property under the Town of Vesuvius OCP bylaw from medium to high density residential to low to medium density residential. And correspondingly to amend the zoning of the property under the Town of Vesuvius zoning bylaw from for the property from a medium density residential being the R6 zone to the low density residential zone, which is the R3 zone. And I did want to flag, this was the subject of the last public hearing. So council has given first and second readings, as you may be aware, to amendment bylaw number 1375.04/2024 being the OCP amendments to implement the small scale multi-unit housing requirements under Bill 44. Ultimately, if these amendments are adopted, this would remove the medium to high density residential designation and replace that with a medium density residential designation, as well as replace the low to medium density residential designation with the low density residential designation. This amended bylaw is to be considered for third reading and adoption during today's regular open council meeting. So therefore, if this amended bylaw is adopted, staff will be recommending that council consider giving third reading to amended bylaw 1375.03/2024, which is the subject of this public hearing, with an amendment to reflect this change. And this is predominantly an administrative amendment, so that the amended bylaw references amending the OCP designation of the property from what would be its new medium density residential designation to low density residential, and that third reading be given to the amended bylaw as amended. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, as far as I know, there's been no correspondence received on this issue.
Correct.
Thank you very much. And I'm looking for presentations now, and I'm wondering if the applicant is here and would like to speak. Yes. Could you please come up? Yes, and state your name and your address, please.
My name is Richard Stab.
You need to turn on your microphone, the bottom there, press until it turns red.
Okay.
There, go ahead,
Got it.
thank you.
My name is Richard Stab. I live at 9506 12th Avenue here in Osoyoos. just moved here in January, so my wife and I are happy to be here. Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, respected council members, Shannon, and associates of the city of Besois. With regard to the amendment, it should be known that the lot size is very clear. In a sense, it's zoned R6, but there's no way to actually build a 3-family or higher density on that property. There's no room for parking at all in that application. So the owners of the property, and I'm an authorized agent of the owners. The owners of the property hope to develop it so that they could build a home themselves and attach it to the existing building, which would make it a duplex. And there's really no other way to develop that property. Right now, the garage is basically decrepit. You know, we're gonna have to do an asbestos test and some hazardous material tests to make sure that before we demolish it, that, you know, it's safe. But after that, we're gonna be building an attachment to the existing lakeshore home, not affecting the riparian situation. We have a full riparian report already through the province. And now we're going to have a beautiful building, as you probably saw in the pictures, that's closer to the Oleander Drive, and we're going to develop the property to make sure that the new building is in conjunction as far as aesthetics with the existing building. In other words, there's stucco on that building now. We're gonna stucco the new building, we're gonna tie it all together. And when we're done, it should look like it's always been there and have a nice appeal at the street level at Oleander. Having said that, anybody have any questions?
Thank you. I think we will wait and see if there's any presentations from the public first, and then if there is, then we could actually ask you to come back up and speak to it again.
Sure.
Would that be all right?
That'll be fine.
Thank you. So I will ask if there's anyone from the public who would like to speak to this application. I will ask a second time. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak to this application? And I'll ask a third time. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak to this application? Council, any questions? No? Okay, could we please have a motion? Hearing none, then I don't think we need to have you speak again, Mr. Stout, if that's all right. Could we have a motion, please, at the public hearing for the official community plan amendment number 1375.03, 2024, and the zoning amendment bylaw number 1085.150, 2024 be adjourned? Thank you, Councillor Poderica, Councillor Chalk, all in favor? Thank you. So this public hearing ended at 2:23, and no new information can be received by council on this matter. Thank you, everyone. We'll now go on to a staff report, and that would be the OCP amendments, and that would be Mr. Garish. So that's what's in my book here. So you've already said that, so it's just maybe a matter, there's the 3. Did you see it? It's on page 24. Do you have that?
No, but yeah, having just given the presentation, I mean, I'm happy to talk to them. I don't want to bore and take lots of time. So if there's any questions or queries, I'm happy to try to answer those. Otherwise,
So the recommendations are that the official community plan amendment bylaw be read a first, second, third time and adopted. The land use procedures was the second one to be adopted, and the municipal ticket information. So those are the 3 things that are included in this particular report.
yeah.
So, and I agree, I think that's why Councillor King asked the question before, because he was looking at this. Is there, maybe what we could do is see if there's any other questions that we have, and before we go through this, does that make sense, council? Counselor King, you're okay? You don't have anything, so it's effectively, we're talking about, the first one, the official community plan, OCP amendment bylaw. We read it a third time and adopted. So that, we've already done the first and second. So, council, are you moving that? Is there a seconder? Counselor Chong, all in favor? Thank you. The next is the land use procedures amendment by law, number 1235, 08/2024. And that would, we're looking to have that one adopted as well. Counselor Poderica, Counselor Bennett, all in favor. Thank you very much. And the third one is the municipal ticket information bylaw. You can see I've just added some other stuff in here that we've gone first 3 readings already, and we're first, second, and third, and we're looking for adoption today. Could I have a motion? Thank you very much, Councillor King, Councillor Chong, all in favor. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's hope they're all that easy. Next. 51. We had a bunch of things added to this one. 51, 5801 Oleander, which was just what we've been doing. Ms. Duong, are you doing this or, okay, go ahead, please.
So kind of echoing Mr. Garish's sentiment, I don't have a formal presentation for this part of the agenda, but I did just want to reiterate the point that was made during the public hearing that as the OCP amendments have just been adopted with respect to the small scale multi-unit housing implementation, we would be updating then our staff recommendation to update the amendment bylaw for the OCP amendment bylaw with respect to this particular application to speak to amending the OCP designation of the property from medium density residential to low density residential.
Okay. So the options here are that in accordance with section 477 of the Local Government Act, municipal councils considered amendment bylaw number 1375.03 2024 in conjunction with financial and applicable waste management plans, and that the town of Vesuvius official community plan amendment bylaw number 1375.03 2024 and the town of Vesuvius zoning amendment bylaw number 1085.150 2024 be read a third time. Is there anything else to add to that?
Yes, so
Okay.
specifically for the official community plan amendment bylaw, that would need to be directed to be amended.
They're gonna be
To reflect
separated.
that change, yeah, but they would have to be separated into different motions. Yeah,
All right. And it's not separated in here in my one. So that's why I read it together. So we need to do it separately?
Yes.
All right. So could, is there, if we're ready, can we deal with the first part? Councillor King.
Yeah, I'll move on to number 1 then.
Thank you. And is there a second? Councillor Bennett, all in favor? Thank you. Now, the second part is that they be read a third time. Is that correct?
That the town of Vesuvius, that the town of Vesuvius official community plan amendment bylaw 1375.03 2024 as amended, be read a third time.
As amended. Okay, fair enough. So that's a separate.
Okay, that one separate.
All right, Councillor Poderica, Councillor Chong, all in favor. Thank you. All right.
And then we have the last one, the zoning amendment bylaw. If we split them up so that we can make that change.
And I missed that, so tell me what page that is on.
That's on, well, I'm reading off of page 3, which is the agenda package. So what we need is, now we need the town of Osceola zoning amendment bylaw number 1085.150 2024 be read a third time. So they're all individual right now.
Okay, fine, thank you. And that isn't what it says here, but I
Right.
can go with it, no problem.
My apologies there.
Go ahead, Councillor King.
I'll move it.
You moving that, is there a seconder for that? Thank you very much, Councillor Bennett. All in favor? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor.
So that issue is, okay, is done. Um. Next, we have the water conservation and staged restriction amendment bylaw. 1273.02, consideration of first three readings, and the water district rates and regulation amendments bylaw. Mr. Risman, are you going to talk to this one?
I am.
Thank you.
Thank you, your worship. Council asked the administration to prepare a stage restriction and water conservation bylaw that was aligned with the rest of the region, and that was done. It went to committee of the whole 2 weeks ago, and it was a motion that asked the administration to convert the odds and evens as far as addresses within the region. We tried to replicate what was in the region, however, that is opposite to what we do. And so council asked that we change it back to what our standard was rather than the region. So that has been incorporated in this file in front of you. The second question that came up a couple weeks was with regards to the number of hours that we would allow watering for. So within the report, it was changing from midnight to 6, to midnight to 4 a.m. And one of the reasons was basically to conserve water and ensure our reservoirs would be full and keep our aquifers as high as possible. There was a motion made 2 weeks ago asking for additional information to consider actually extending that time back to 6 hours, but changing the time from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. Thereby allowing the reservoirs to fill up prior to the busier time at 6 a.m. Administration would prefer not to make that change, and a couple of reasons for that. First is that the whole intent of the bylaw is to reduce water. We've been under, I think, significant stress, as people know. We've been lucky, we've always had water. We should have actually one of our wells on standby, not being used at any time, and only being used for a significant event. And so anything that we can do to actually reduce the pressure on our infrastructure is probably a good move. And therefore, administration is recommending to keep it down to 4 hours. And again, that's to be more consistent with the region and to be in the spirit of just conserving water.
Thank you very much. Council, anybody have any questions or concerns about this one? No? Anybody? Okay, so is there someone who would like to move the first recommendation, the water conservation and state restriction bylaw 1273.02 be read first, second, and third time? Counselor? You're gonna move that? Okay, that's fine. Counselor Morera, Counselor Poderica is seconding that. All in favor? Thank you very much. And the second one, the Water District Rates and Regulations Amendment Bylaw 1375.07/2024 be read a first, second, and third time. Counselor Morera, Counselor King. All in favor? Thank you very much. Okay, next is the continuing to work with water, the correspondence from the Okanagan Basin Water Board. And so there is a report on here. This is a meeting that I attend all the time. So the first thing that we had was the Okanagan Lake Dam Manager in Penticton has spoke to us for a while, talking about how the inflow and the outflow affect not only Okanagan Lake, but also, of course, the river channel and eventually the Suez Lake, because the Suez Lake is definitely affected by the amount in Okanagan Lake and what's let out, far more than the Zozel Dam. We always thought that the Zozel Dam in south of Warville would have quite an effect on the lake levels. The water in Okanagan Lake has much more of an effect than the dam. However, I'll report on that later to the dam. So, they're really looking at this and they're doing the province is doing a new, study on what the Okanagan Lake standard should be and updating that. So that hasn't been done yet, but it's in the process of being done. The board was very happy to welcome the BC government's introduction of the pull the plug legislation, which means that any boat or watercraft coming into the province needs to have their plug open and the water drained out of there before they enter the province. There's a lot of villagers and nasty things that can sit in that water, and if they bring that into another lake, all that does is spread it around. So that's a really good thing that we've had, and when Minister Cullen was here, he was very happy to say that that was something that they had done. Also, the whirling disease was another reason why they had to do that. So the Don't Move a Muscle campaign from the Okanagan Basin Water Board is certainly something that we've seen often, and I know that if you will see these types of sheets around at farmers markets, at the front of town hall. Really important that people realize how damaging that could be. Make Water Work is another of the campaigns that the Okanagan Basin Water Board does, and really they were very happy to see that everybody in the valley now, from Vesuvius all the way up to Armstrong, is using the 3 days a week as being the normal for watering, that there's no such thing as normal watering anytime you want. 3 days a week is the new normal, and it's the same all the way up and down the valley. So, the Make Water Work campaign, and you hear me every year saying, take the pledge to go on and, reduce your, or follow the rules that you have on when to water, keep your lawn a little bit higher, rather than cutting it down too far, so it needs more water, making sure that your irrigation system is working properly. Use less water inside the house and outside the house, so you know that 24% of the water in the Okanagan is used by irrigation outside. And so that's a pretty high number. And of course, we're going through a drought situation. We're still in that, despite the fact that we've had some rain, which has given us a little bit of relief on that. But they're predicting a pretty hot summer. As a matter of fact, I saw in the news that Vesuvius was the hot spot in BC yesterday, so we're well on the way to fulfilling that. And I think we all need to be really careful about how much water we use, where we use it, and save it for the things that are really super important, and that would be for farming of any kind, for fish passage, and for firefighting. Those are the three big ones. The sewerage facilities assistant grant program is being looked at, and it's been something that the OBWB has looked at for a long time, and they're really looking at how they can update that. That's something that came up, and there are 3 new hydrometric stations installed in the Okanagan, and hydrometric stations they provide information to local government and provincial staff on water management decisions to hold back water, support more, allow more water to go through, and it in order to help meet the needs of the aquatic ecosystems, farming and domestic abuse. So it's always an interesting meeting, and fortunately the last one was in Penticton, which means I only had a 1-hour drive versus a 2 or 3. So I'm always happy when that happens. So could I have a motion, please, to accept the Okanagan Basin Water Board highlights for information? Councilor King, Councilor Bennett, all in favor. Thank you. Next is the development variance permit application. And that would be for 682 89th Street. And I will ask Ms. Wong to give us that information, please.
Thank you, and I give a presentation for this one.
Okay?
So this item of the agenda relates to application number DVP 24-02. The subject property, is 6828 89th Street. The property does have an official community plan designation of comprehensive development, and the zoning of the property is comprehensive development, namely the CD 12 zone. The parcel is approximately 2,982 square meters in size and is also located within the growth containment area boundaries. With respect to the development proposal, the applicant is proposing to construct a 40-unit multiple family dwelling in the form of an apartment building, namely a rental apartment building. The applicable comprehensive development zone permits multiple family dwelling as a use on the property to a maximum of 40 dwelling units. The CD 12 zone also stipulates required building footprint and siting requirements, as well as parking requirements. As it relates to this particular application, the CD 12 zone also stipulates a maximum building height of 13 meters. And in reviewing the plans that have been submitted as part of this application, it's understood that the height of the proposed multiple family dwelling would be 14.48 meters, and therefore a variance is required in order to proceed with the issuance of a building permit. So council will recall this file did a previous file had come forward to the April 23rd and May 14th council meetings. That was development variance permit application number DVP 24-01, which requested to vary the maximum building height from 13 meters to 15.8 meters. And as you'll see on the left, the building plans are shown. And ultimately on May 14th, 2024, during the regular open council meeting, council did resolve to deny that application. Since then, of course, this application has been submitted and the new plans submitted generally appear to have revised the tops of the building. As you can see here, I've circled in purple up top. It appears that the plans have generally removed those vaulted ceiling areas in the top floor, which has subsequently reduced the overall proposed building height. Now, considering this proposal, it's noted that generally the purpose of regulating height has historically been to minimize impacts on neighboring properties as it relates to shading and privacy, as well as impacts to the established streetscape. New provincial direction via recent legislative amendments has prioritized flexibility and removing barriers to providing additional housing units. And the province has encouraged that local governments not take into consideration how projects may impact the existing character of single-family, low-density neighborhoods when you're approving new multi-unit housing. And this would include any potential impacts on shading, privacy, views, and access to sunlight. The historical approach of evaluating projects against the existing character, particularly of single-family neighborhoods, would ultimately discourage new, higher density forms of housing. With respect to this particular request, we do understand that it represents an approximately 11.4% increase from the current building height allowance. And with respect to the proposed 14.48 meter building height, it's noted that as we previously discussed at prior committee meetings, it's being proposed as part of the zoning bylaw update to include an increased building height of 15 meters within the medium density residential zone. And in this regard, the proposal would ultimately be consistent with that new height allowances if the amendments are adopted as is. From a land use planning standpoint, when we're assessing requests for variances, one of the things that we look at is whether the proposed variance is being requested as a means of addressing a physical or some sort of legal constraint on site. Typically, this exists in the form of topographical constraints or things such as legal instruments such as no-build covenants or easements which restrict construction. Now, in this particular instance, the building height variance is not necessarily seen to be requested as a means of addressing a physical or legal constraint, and is generally seen to allow for expanded living areas particularly by increasing ceiling heights and as well as to provide for adequate underground parking clearances for accessible parking spaces for vans with lifts on them. It's also acknowledged that the application has indicated that the grading of the westerly retaining wall does not allow for further excavation due to the risk of the wall being compromised and failing. We do note, however, that the CD12 zoning that applies to the property may present some challenges as it relates to developing the site to a 40-unit apartment building absent of an increased height allowance. Namely, and as I mentioned, the CD12 zoning does restrict the building footprint on the site. If you've seen the CD12 zoning section of the zoning bylaw, it actually includes a map schedule, which is shown up on the presentation here, which actually limits where the building can be sited on the property. And any deviation from that siting would require a rezoning. Furthermore, we do highlight that a majority of the properties along 89th Street between 62nd and 74th Avenue are currently designated as medium to high density residential under the OCP bylaw and or are zone high density residential under the zoning bylaw. And in this regard, the proposal is seen to generally be in keeping with what we've established as the future land use direction in this area, and would unlikely then impact the anticipated future streetscape in a substantial manner. With respect to the anticipated impacts on neighborly parcels, we do find that the variance would most likely impact the westerly adjacent parcel, which is currently being developed to 3-story townhomes and is owned by the applicant of this particular development variance permit application. In reviewing the retaining wall that's currently on site, it does appear that Nighthawk Drive is elevated above the development site by approximately 7 meters. And in this regard, the topography of this area would likely mitigate some of the issues with the proposed building height variance. So we do believe that the proposed variance would likely have minimal impacts on the surrounding properties. As part of our development variance permit process, we did circulate internal referrals, including to the fire department. The fire department, in responding to our referral, had indicated that fire suppression would be a challenge, as the proposed building would comprise 5 stories and that an aerial apparatus would be required to ensure adequate fire access. And that this funding for this aerial apparatus would be proposed for 2028 in that budget. Additionally, as mentioned, we do there is a public consultation component of the development variance permit process, in which we send out notification letters within 60 meters of the subject property. And in this case, we did receive written submissions in response to this application, and these have been included in our agenda. So at this time, we are seeking direction from council or determination from council as to whether or not to approve the development variance permit application at 68 and 89th Street. And the administrative recommendation, based on the comments that I provided, is that the development variance permit application be approved. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Duong. I just like to point out that there were several letters that were included in the written portion of the agenda, and there are several other letters that came and were included in this and have been included in the new online so that people can see that. So all of the letters that have come in recently have been included. Thank you. So I'll just see what council has any questions, or go ahead, Councillor.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I got a couple of questions. I can't see the small print on the diagram, it's too small. But you talked about raising the basement another foot, not back whole time, not meters, because of the lift, but all lifts accessible go down, they don't go up. So I think that's kind of misleading conversation in the proposal here. And then how do we know it's gonna say add a foot to the basement, which I can see for parking, and 2 feet up top to kind of make the 1.48 meter exactly?
Go ahead, Ms. Duong.
So, as I understand it, kind of based on what the applicant has submitted, my understanding is that the typical, I suppose, floor height would be, I believe it's 8 feet. And they are proposing 9, so they are asking for that extra ceiling, height increase on each of those floors. I think I mentioned this at the previous, May 14th council meeting. Our zoning bylaw requires that, parking levels or parking spaces for, accessible spaces, the height has to be 3 meters, that's being allowed. And we had staff, calculate the height of the parking area at 3.325 meters. So they're allowing for a slightly, greater, allowance for that clearance there.
You're asking for a foot. And you already said they got clearance, and then they want another foot to be seen. Go ahead, read it. So,
Yes.
Okay, anybody else have any? Go ahead, Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I still have a problem of committing a new council 4 years from now to spend $2.2 million on an aerial fire truck. Just to make a floor height go from 8 foot to 9 foot. I don't think that's physical responsibility on my behalf, just raise it for. There's a really good reason to do it, but I just want to read here, was to make the floor height go from 8 foot high ceiling to 9 foot high ceiling. And I just myself can't vote in favor of that, to spend committing a future council for 2.2 million. And what's it going to be by the time it gets to there? So that's just my view.
Thank you, Councillor Bennett. I believe that the fire truck was already put into the, and I understand that. And it will be put on the budget 2028, so that's a few years from now. However, my assumption is that there are other buildings in town that might require the use of a fire truck as well. So anybody else have any? Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Chong.
Thank you. So at the very least, I think we already have 5 good reasons why a ladder truck is required. Walnut Beach, Holiday Inn, Coast, Watermark, and Spirit Ridge. They're all technically 5 stories because of underground parking. So regardless, a ladder truck is going, it's well technically overdue at this point. I was at the subject site this morning with my rangefinder. I want to know what is the height? Will views be blocked? Is there going to be a negative impact? So standing beside the townhouses that were just or almost finished building, aimed about 3 or 4 meters from 89th Street, kind of in the dirt area where the proposed parking would begin. It would be 17.8 meters in height. Now, looking at the plans, it would be, I believe that's page 13 on the report itself. So the north elevation and south elevation plans, it says 14.48 meters in the double-ended red arrow, but I basically shot right to the lowest point that I could find. So by those calculations, it would be from the lowest point to the top of the building, 16 meters. So unless my math is wrong, and we would still have about a meter, just shy of 2 meters of clearance, before views would be impacted. I just want to be clear with that. It's, I went out there and it seems like there shouldn't be an impact. Potentially, you may not see a school field. But in terms of views of the lake, there shouldn't be an impact because again, 17.8 meters from my rangefinder from top to bottom, and 16 meters from the lowest point of the parking lot to the highest point of the building. In terms of fire safety, how has Penticton been responding with? Because they've gone through this some time ago. Like, is there? My understanding is with Kelowna, there's a rated 2-hour burn rate, so that the stairwells it takes 2 hours to burn through, and then there's a thorough sprinkler system installed, so for fire suppression. But I guess this would be a better question for Chief Courtmeyer. If he is around.
Chief Courtmeyer, would you come up to the mic, or would you like to come and sit over here? Whatever, thank you very much. Would you help us?
Yeah, just to clarify something that was previously said amongst council. If I remember a survey, when we're looking at larger structures, it's your 3 buildings that are built in a community prior to fire underwriter survey requiring a municipality or suggesting a municipality actually has an aerial device. So we've already surpassed those 3 buildings within the area. When high densification begins to happen, Vancouver was the first municipality really that started to see larger growth going upwards. In those cities, what they did is they did a larger push for sprinklerization for the entire community on the inside and outside structures. So when you have that type of sprinkler protection, you can go up. The difference is once you get over 6 stories is that it is concrete comparatively to your wood or pressed wood used to manufacture a lot of the wood type structures inexpensively, is if you can read that. So honestly, if people wanted to come into Osoyoos and wanted to build higher than the 7 stories, it's actually safer for occupancy loads because they're constructed with I'm scrambling for words, but the concrete's completely incapable of burning comparatively to wood frame construction. So that's why they're trying to limit it at 6 and sprinkle. But even though that they do have the fire breaks, it's been demonstrated repeatedly if the sprinkler system does fail, that a non-resistant fire construction lasts a lot longer than one that is built of a dimensional wood.
Thank you very much. Did that make sense, Councillor Chong? Yeah. Okay, thank you, Chief. Did you have anything else that you wanted to?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
One last point, with the correspondences, I believe another recurring theme was, traffic. I believe we put forward a request to explore, the possibility or the feasibility of reducing, traffic in residential zones from 50 kilometers an hour to 30 kilometers an hour in lieu or in light of, the passing of home-based daycares or childcare centers, and we want to make sure that there's safety throughout the community. So I do want to clarify that that is already in process. I think it was a couple months ago or something like that, but it is on our radar. It's not just because of childcare and the safety of children, because it looks good, but also with the elder population with mobility issues. I want to make sure that we maintain safety throughout the whole community, throughout all the demographics. But I think those are my 3 main points. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that, go ahead, Councillor King?
Yeah, I just gotta make sure I know it's in here. That's definitely a rental building for 10 years, on my understanding.
Yes, there is a housing agreement that's registered on title that requires that.
Okay.
Okay, so is there anyone who wishes to make a motion or recommend? Go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. As a result of the increase in the height restrictions, first of all, acknowledging that there has been a significant decrease from the original proposal that was presented for the variance. I'd like to move that option 1 of council approve the variance on 214.40, I believe.
Yeah, 2024 to 42, yeah. 24-02.
Yeah, the 14.40 meters.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councillor King. Is there any other? Go ahead, Councillor John.
I just wanted to clarify with the new proposed FWUH height limits, I guess, we are going to be moving forwards with a 15-meter maximum height regardless.
That is the proposal in the draft zoning bylaw that was presented to council today, but as I indicated, the committee, we're gonna go into the engagement process now, and we'll bring back all the comments we hear, so it's subject to review, but we're proposing 15 members.
And also to further clarify, this is mandated by the province.
So it's not regulatory, but the regulation speaks to considering the minister's policy manual. And policy manual is strongly encouraging flexibility in how local governments approach residential development.
So my understanding is that this is 14.48, according to, the report. And so therefore that's pretty close to 15, isn't it? And I'm assuming that looking at all of the other things, that 14.48 makes sense, looking at the building permit, yeah. So the council, it has been moved and seconded that the development variance permit be approved, and I will call the question. All in favor? Against? Okay. That is passed. Thank you. Okay. Next is the lease agreement. Lease agreement, that would be, is that, Mrs. Robinson?
Thank you, Mayor. In front of you is the second report for the lease agreement for 8711 Main Street. To be leased to the proposed lease to Elections BC. We have met our statutory requirements, so in accordance with section 26, disposition of land, community charter administration posted the intention to lease in 2 consecutive editions of the Times Chronicle on May 16th and May 23rd. The advertisement was placed on the town's website May 15th and was sent out in e-news on May 16th, 2024. So in front of you is the report. We do have the draft preliminary agreement, and our recommendation is that council authorize administration to lease the property legally described as Lot 2, Plan KAP 5120, District Lot 2450S, SDYD, Portion L 732, and more commonly referred to as 8711 Main Street, Osoyoos, BC, to the Elections BC for a 3-month term commencing on August 1st, 2024. The rental rate of $5,000 per month plus an additional rate of $200 per month for utilities. And that the town's signatories be authorized to sign the agreement.
Thank you, Mrs. Robinson. Councillor King,
I'll move that.
the recommendation,
Yes.
thank you. Seconding that, Councillor Chong. I think that's good use for that building for now, so that's a good thing. I will call the question. All in favor? Thank you very much, everyone. That passed. So next is the general net payroll and some.
Do you need another motion to have someone sign them?
No, that was included in it, but I do have one more report. My
Oh, I'm
apologies.
sorry. Yes, we've got to go to the bylaw.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. So we have been successful in recruiting 2 seasonal bylaw enforcement officers. They will be starting June 13th, Fabrice Vandal, and we will have Max Truant starting June 24th. For them to be able to assist in the community, to write municipal tickets, we do need a recommendation from council. So before you is 2 recommendations. One, that Fabrice Vandal be appointed as a town of Osoyoos bylaw enforcement officer under section 36 of the Police Act, chapter 367 and section 264 of the Community Charter for the purposes of enforcement of municipal bylaws for the town of Osoyoos. And then the second recommendation would be that Max Truant be appointed as a town of Osoyoos bylaw enforcement officer under section 36 of the Police Act, chapter 367 and section 264 of the Community Charter for the purposes of enforcement of municipal bylaws for the town of Osoyoos.
Thank you. And those need to be done separately.
Yes,
Yes. Okay, so let's do the first one, that Fabrice Vandal be appointed. Is there someone? Go ahead, Councillor Chong, Councillor Puerto Rico. All in favor? Thank you. And the second one, Max Truant, who will be starting on June the 24th. Councillor Chong, Councillor Bennett. Sorry, go ahead.
Or just make a comment, take him on. These are two new bylaws on top of the ones we already have, correct? It's not replacing any bylaws.
No, that is correct. We currently have our two bylaw officers, Rick Tayal and Sean Siebert, and we will be adding two summer seasonal ones that will go from June to approximately middle of September. Yeah,
So, did we get a motion?
yes.
Did we get somebody, we've got it, the two for the second one for
Yeah.
Max Truant? Okay, all in favor. Thank you very much. And we will now go to general net payroll and Sunville Arena financial accounts, general cash requirements. Thank you to our planners. $276,788.99. Sunville cash requirements of $7,132.50. And net payroll accounts of $112,227.59. So could I have a motion, please, to have those accepted for information purposes? Councillor Chong, Councillor King, all in favor. Thank you. And the next is the building permit summary. And it looks pretty busy. The total for the month is over 4 million. And the total for 2024, 7,795,000. So we have fire damage, water damage, demolition of something, a swimming pool, a roof, commercial buildings, retaining walls, interior renovations, new single-family dwelling, and more retaining walls. So it looks like it's going to be a busy time in Osoyoos. Anybody have any concerns about that, or would you like to receive the building permit for the month of May?
Good question.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't know if you can answer or not. On number 2024040, it talks about adding some residential units on top of the building. Would that be 2 floors, or do you know, 2 floors, 1 floor?
Your worship, I'm pretty sure it's just 1 floor, but I'll follow up and send council an email to inform it.
Thank you.
It's on this second floor.
Sure, the building officer, with permitted, I would think, in order to get this done. Building permit would have to be, okay, yeah, looks like a lot of building and a lot of things going on in the town of Osoyoos, so. It seems busy, and we know it has been busy, so, did we have that motion carried?
Not yet.
We did, okay, so do we have a motion to accept the building, okay, building permit, Councillor Chong, Councillor Quadriga, all in favor. Thank you. All right, we'll go on to the, Chief Administrative Officer report. Mr. Wisman.
Thank you, your worship. Yes, a lot going on this summer, so we got crews out doing a bunch of things. And one of the things that was exciting was 2 weeks ago today was the ribbon cutting, which I was able to attend. A meeting with the union and also attended an airport committee meeting. And probably the highlight was last week, I was in Kimberley with the other CAOs with that are included in the resort municipality group. So it's always great going to see that crew and learning some of their experiences, so we can bring it here and make our community more welcoming. I also want to highlight that, not the best news, but the waste calendar that got sent out with the tax notices, there was an error on it, and we're going to be remailing that out in 2 weeks. The positive side, that wasn't our error, it was Waste Connections, and they are doing it at their cost. So expect something to mail in 2 or 3 weeks. And again, no cost to the taxpayers.
Sure.
We're meeting with PennDOT Group. They're looking at potentially another lease agreement with their model airplane at the airport. So administration is working with them. Still working with Rotary Club and RCMP to get that life jacket station in place. That's exciting. The swimming lessons in the lake registration has started. Registration for the Cactus Kids Day Camp started today. I know that's always pretty popular. And from an accessibility perspective, the ramp at the Sun Bowl is completed. We know that there's gonna be some water restrictions coming out. I just really encourage people to sign up for e-news. It's probably one of the best places to get the information as soon as those things, water restrictions come into play. We send it out via e-news. And so I really strongly encourage people to sign up. Dogs continue to be a bit of an issue. Please keep your dogs under control. And also a reminder to keep them off the beaches except in the designated areas. And property tax and water billing payments that are being processed, and want to thank those that are coming in and for the most part, they're being very cooperative, and we really appreciate that. New businesses, Stages and Flooring and Design, Island Vibrations Limited, and Steinbeck Contracting. So we have 3 new businesses in town over the last couple of weeks. And from an operational services perspective, you see them out every day, mowing lawns. Some sand was brought in at Drywood Beach, and they're doing a lot of work with regards to the water treatment plant. There's a lot of work going on with Corello and Colliers project management team. There's a lot of pieces to do before we're even ready to start tendering for the project. So probably in the next 2 to 3 months, there'll be some more information coming to council as far as potential locations and that type of thing. But there's been involved in several of those meetings, and there's a lot of prep work to do. But they're extremely thorough, and I'm really impressed with the level of expertise that they bring. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Resnick. Could we have a motion, please, to accept the CAO report for information? Councillor Poderica, Councillor Chung, all in favor? Thank you. All right, council reports. Councillor Chung here first.
Thank you. May 20th, I had a one-on-one meeting with Mr. Kang, Minister of Municipal Affairs. Really touching base and going through some of the details of the situation that we're facing. Most of that conversation was regarding our water treatment challenges, and really highlighting the fact that it is unfair to place this tax burden solely on our residents and our need for grant funding. She sympathized greatly with our current situation, and there are strong indications that we are top of the list for the next round of grant funding. Timeline is not concrete, but it was indicated early next year. But overall, very constructive meeting. Along with the rest of council, I was able to rush back and attend part of the opening of 85th Street Plaza. I couldn't quite make it for the ribbon cutting, but then also attended the event later on in the evening, where we had some more FaceTime with specifically Mr. Kang again, and also Mr. Kalon, Housing Minister. So it was overall a very productive period of time between the last council meeting. And then incredibly happy to say that the Seas Beach Volleyball League starts tomorrow. The sand is great, well done operations and staff. So Wednesday evenings, come on down, it's always a great time. But that concludes my report.
Thank you. Councillor Poderica.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councilor Chung covered a fair bit, but obviously last 2 weeks ago, we were fortunate enough to have the BC Government Caucus in town for a couple of days. They had the opportunity to visit a number of sites and attractions, both in terms of facilities and infrastructure, as well as local businesses, and meet with local farmers. Of course, council, as I previously said, council had previously the opportunity to have lunch with Mr. Kang. We did have the opportunity to have a good portion of the Government Caucus there for the 85th Plaza opening, as well as an event later that night with all the members at Government Caucus who were in town for those couple days. So it's great to have them in town. Great to have the opportunity to talk with them about their needs, and fortunate to We haven't been able to host them for that, this couple days every time, and that's my report.
Thank you. Councillor King.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess you'll kind of hear it redundant. At the opening of 85th ribbon cutting, the premier was there. A lot of the caucus, as you already heard, it was a great chance to come to lobby on behalf of the town for future funding and just find out what's going on. Also attended Community Service Advisory Committee last week. And what was great to see, actually, everybody on the committee was there for a change. Usually there's the odd one missing. So you will see a report coming forward next week, or next council meeting. That's my report.
Thank you. Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Along with the other councilors attended soft opening on 85th Street. Then June 3rd, had a meeting with the Trails of Okanagan and Whittington and West Coast Beachland that really jumped on board with this, and we're getting some great results and some great funding, and hopefully we get some more that support in the South Okanagan. That's very important.
Thank you. So, you've heard that we had a busy couple of weeks, and certainly the Make Water Work and the Don't Move a Muscle is very important at this time of year. The fire chief and I were asked to do a video, but we haven't quite got around to it yet, on drought and fires. I think I was to talk about drought, you fires. But we haven't done that yet. We've been pretty busy with numerous other things, but still, it's in the news. There's a lot of it. I was on a meeting yesterday with Interior Health in preparation for heat and smoke. And one of the nurses on there came up with a really good idea, because obviously, if you have there's a lot of heat, you can't be outside, inside, that sometimes can be worse. So air conditioners are expensive if you can get them, but she had a dandy idea, and it was just a plain fan, one of the square ones that you, I don't know, you can get for, I don't know, $25, $30, I think, I'm not sure. And what you do is you put one of those filters on the back of it, tape it on, and as the air comes through, it goes through the filter. And she was recommending this is IH, and I thought, what a cool idea for anybody that needed that in their house. Doesn't take a fancy air conditioner, you can do it that way. So I saw that, and anybody who needs help with that, I can draw them a little picture if they need it. So that's a good thing. The summer heat is coming. They're quite concerned about it already. And of course, as you know, yesterday, Vesuvius was the hotspot in BC. You need to be prepared, drink lots of water. And one of the other things that was recommended is do wellness checks with your neighbors, with your family, with your kids, with your parents. And make sure that they're all right. I remember we used to say this a lot during COVID when we were locked down. That was one of the big things to tell. Get interaction. Don't let people sit in their houses because they can't go anywhere. So be prepared. Have a backpack. Said that before, that you, in case there is something goes on, you have to be taken out of your home. Make sure that you're ready, have what you need in there, your medications, your some waters, change of clothes, that type of thing. Have it ready, keep it by the door. So I was on the International Lake Vesuvius Border Control meeting yesterday, where we're talking about Zozele Dam, and they were saying that the Zozele Dam is going through some retrofitting. It was built, I think it was redone in about 1985, and it's being redone to make sure that the fish passage is the main thing, because as the fish come up the Columbia and up the Okanagan into the lake system, they have to get through various dams in order to get that and to get there. And the Zozele Dam needs some updating to make sure that fish do not get damaged, because I can't really remember, it was 20% of the fish that go through don't make it because they're either, something has happened to them, they get an infection, and so they're doing that, which was kind of an interesting thing, and I will come back once that is, report has been, prepared, and I will, report again on that. On May the 29th, when the caucus was here, it was quite interesting because, we went down to the boat launch where somebody, and I'm not sure who it was, arranged for Minister Cullen and Minister Heyman to come down and see Major, the mussel sniffing dog. And I brought something from Major for our counselors. If you can give one to Counselor Sean. Major is a dog who is owned by the BC Conservation Group. And he actually, his owner was there, he lives in Cranbrook. And the owner was there and had put some mussels, because there was also a boat there with a trailer. He put some mussels on the boat somewhere, and that dog found it. Could sniff it out and sits down, very well trained. So Minister Cullen, we said, we need more of these, of course. And I think it was absolutely the best thing, because from my point of view, OBWB, we've been asking the government to pull the plug legislation, to have more dogs, to increase conservation officers. And here's the reason why, and they were there to watch this. I think it made quite an impact on them, and so it was interesting. They also had the trailer that they didn't do it actually. They had the trailer with the water on it and the cleaning, so they can clean the boats with high pressure hot water to get rid of the mussel. Even the little tiny ones that feel like sandpaper, they can get rid of those. Doesn't always work. Sometimes you have to do 2 or 3 times. The dog found found mussels on one of the boats that had gone through 3 cleanings. And that was pretty scary to think that the cleaning is great, but it might not catch everything. So the dogs are a really important part to this. And so the Okanagan Basin Water Board is looking at trying to see if we cannot find some money to train more dogs and have more in the system. There's just 2 right now, but one of them is retiring. Quite fascinating thing. We were so glad that the ministers were there to see that. The other thing on Okanagan Basin Water Board is that you need to take the pledge, but I did the pledge online and it didn't register, and I tried to do it again. They said you've already pledged. So I've asked to have that fixed, but please go on there and do that. The milfoil harvester, we have a brand new one that is going to come down to Osoyoos fairly soon. It's going to be launched in Vernon first, but then it's going to come down here. But when I was talking to the Times Chronicle, and I said that we had this new harvester that would be able to the bridge would be lowered to go under the bridge, our bridge, that apparently the other 2, the red one, which is the rototiller, and the green one, which is the harvester, have both been adapted, and they can both now get under the bridge. So that's a good thing. Depending on the height of the water, that's for sure. So that's something to look forward to, and we will certainly make sure that when the harvester gets here, we'll take some pictures. But I just wanted to point out that June is Pride Month, and there have been quite a few parades and so on around, and I've got some information that was given to me by the Pride community, and I just want to say that we have them coming down and doing an event in Osoyoos. I think it's in September, but you will see lots of it because June, all up and down the valley, because June is Pride Month in BC. I forgot to mention that when talking about the mussels, that Birgit Einstein is here with the lake water quality, and on July the 24th, she is having The dog? Yes, the dog is coming back. And it will be advertised, anybody who wants to come down and see the dog in action, is fascinating. And she will also have a boat and the trailer to show how to decontaminate the boats. That will be down, on the parking lot behind the band shell.
Senior center, yeah.
Yeah, senior center, and that's on July the 24th, so that will be reminded of that. And I think that was all that I had, right now, so I will ask for, to move into the in-camera section pursuant to 91 of the community charter. A part of the council meeting may be closed to the public if the subject matter being considered relates to one or more of the following: section 91C, labor relations or other employee relations. Could I have a motion, please? Councillor Pottery?